Does Boko Haram get its money to fund its main business of terrorism? Omoyele Sowore is the publisher of SaharaReporters.com. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about Boko Haram and how it gets its money, because in the articles I've read, it's a really big mystery how this group is funded.
Well, they're engaged in a number of ways of raising money. One of them, majorly, bank robbery.
Bank robbery.
Yes.
Good old-fashioned bank robbery.
Yes, they've robbed lots of banks to the extent that most banks are closed down because of Boko Haram in the northeastern part of Nigeria. Recently, they made a big haul, and that was when they abducted tourists from France in Cameroon. They got about $4 million from that transaction alone. That's a lot of money, as you can imagine, for a terror group like Boko Haram. And I would imagine that they get financing from regional groups that are like them. And what we don't know is how much of global terrorist financing comes to Boko Haram at this point.
And it appears that they're getting better tools, meaning their weapons have been upgraded, that their tactics have been upgraded, their vehicles have been upgraded. And running this organization is expensive, isn't it? Because they come back and forth, for example, between the border of Cameroon a lot.
Yes, but you would be surprised that most of the weapons they have and have been using were actually weapons that carted away from Nigerian troops each time they attacked barracks. Boko Haram attacked a small a small unit on February 18, and they took away from them 200 bombs. Each of those bombs are capable of, firing about 3,000 meters. I'm not a military person, but these are pretty powerful tools, and I can imagine that when they make a lot of money, they also buy weapons from across the borders because they're creating their own country. They're creating a country taken out of Chad, Niger, Nigeria, and Cameroon.
That's right.
And Cameroon already said yesterday Boko Haram is destabilizing Cameroon the same way it's destabilizing northeast of Nigeria.
Well, and that's a concern that Cameroon hasn't been as helpful as possible. Where are they getting the weapons from? Who is supplying? Who are the arms dealers?
Well, they have arms dealers that are supplying the same armed groups that had been in Chad and Niger. These are countries that have failed to a large extent. And it is the black hole of sales of weapons for Boko Haram. It's the easiest black market for weaponry for Boko Haram. Well, and I can imagine because of corruption in the Nigerian army or military itself, they will be selling weapons. They were selling weapons to Niger Delta militants.
I was going to ask you, how much support are they getting from within Nigeria as well, and maybe from the population itself?
I would imagine that at this time they have very, very little support, but they've gotten to a point where they are so powerful, it's that you support them or you die. And they have been able to prove that several times. But I don't see the local population in Nigeria who are bearing the brunt of Boko Haram's militancy or brutality supporting them at this point.
Take me to the individual member of Boko Haram. Is this, with lacking a better word, their full-time job, or are they members of society in sort of this shadow group as well?
Oh, you can imagine that they're doing so well, this will be more than a full-time job. These guys are, if you have 234 kids, girls to take care of, you'll be very, very busy. And they have to, in addition to that, attack barracks, they have to attack markets, they have to attack villages almost on a daily basis. They just attacked an Abuja bus station.
It's an organized crime unit, basically.
Absolutely, it's organized crime that's driven by hate, and of course religious ideology, fanatical religious ideology.
Is there evidence that there's state-sponsored terrorism at all? When you look at other terrorist groups around the world, you could point to some countries that give them money. Anything going on here?
I don't think so. The reason why I don't think so is if that was happening, it would have been clear by now that there's a particular state, a rogue state behind Boko Haram. But you can imagine, even religious leaders in Saudi Arabia and other places have been condemning the abduction of the girls. It does mean that they don't support. There's no state that we know of.
We know, and that makes it probably a little bit harder to pressure them because there's no state to go after. Omoyele, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in. Coming up, if